Yes, hello and welcome from all over Europe. Welcome to the panel discussion Learnings for the Swiss Social Economy from a European Perspective. Social entrepreneurship and the social economy is surely something that is meant to stay and that is developing in a fast pace all over Europe. And today we are going to have a little talk about just that and what it could mean for the Swiss social economy. Um, we would love to hear your questions as well. So please use the chat. I have it open here. I will read the questions that you will put in the chat for our panel here. My name is Michael Wunsch. I am the co-founder of the Social Entrepreneurship Network Germany, and I will lead you through this panel discussion today as the moderator. And without further ado, I am very, very happy to announce three wonderful speakers today here on the panel. We have live from Sweden, Sophia, who is the CEO of Reach for Change, an organization that supports social entrepreneurs working to scale innovative solutions for children and young people. Hello, Sophia.
Hi.
We also have Ferle, who is head of policy of the Euclid Network. The Euclid Network is the European Association for Social Entrepreneurship. So the Euclid Network represents social entrepreneurs on the European scale.
Hi.
Hello, Verle. And also, I heartily welcome Patrick. Patrick is the head of sector of social economy and social enterprise at the DG Grow at the European Commission. Hello, Patrick.
Hello.
Yes, so let's start into the first round of questions. I want to start with you, Sophia, as you have gained a lot of experiences surrounding social entrepreneurship, and you are quite active in the field yourself. How would you describe the framework conditions for social entrepreneurs in Sweden, where you are based?
So thank you, Michael, and thank you for having me here. It's really exciting. I wish I could be there in person, but such is the times. But I would say also that the times are very good for social entrepreneurship at the moment and social enterprise. We've been active in the field with at Reach for Change for the past 10 years in Sweden. And I would say my first reflection is that there has been just a tremendous growth in public awareness. I think when we started around 10 years ago supporting social entrepreneurs, we did a general study and we found that around 4% of the population kind of had an active understanding of what social enterprise was. And 10 years later in Sweden, those figures rise to about 60%. So I think the idea of public awareness has really increased. And of course, secondly, what we see is just a surgence of additional actors on the scene. And I think that that's really exciting because we all know that social enterprise can't exist in a vacuum. So we have to support the ecosystem around it. So what we've seen is not only a growth in the actual practitioners, the social enterprise, and onto social entrepreneurs, but in the impact investors, in incubator accelerators and intermediaries supporting these. But also what I find really interesting is kind of policy awakening and government insight that this is an important tool for social change and a contribution to the economy as well. So around 3 to 4 years ago, the Swedish government put a special pot of money from the enterprise ministry to stimulate social entrepreneurship. And this went to the Public Innovation Authority and some other authorities to actually go into the system to stimulate the ecosystem. So that's a positive trend I see. A second positive trend, which I think is really exciting to see, is how the municipalities and the public sector are actually waking up to the possibility of procurement and actually connecting with the social entrepreneurs and purchasing their services. And we see this specifically from certain municipalities that are a step forward, but also from kind of bodies that are lobbying the municipalities to take more risk and to be able to purchase more services. So in short, I see a lot of positive developments, but a lot more to be done. And I'm sure we will get into that as well.
Thank you, Sophia. Could you shortly describe the work that you are doing and what you bring to the ecosystem in Sweden?
Sure. So we're an organization that was founded in Sweden 10 years ago, and our aim is to support early stage social entrepreneurs. There's not a lot of support out there for the early stage, and we know that we have to fill the pipeline so that we're going to get these kind of scalable solutions. But our whole premise for being is to support children and youth, but we want to do that through social entrepreneurs. So we find and support the best social entrepreneurs that have innovations that can support children and youth. And we support them long-term with network, with a bit of seed funding, but most importantly with non-financial support, so capacity building. We work with them long-term, and we've been doing this, as I said, for the past 10 years, and have actually exported this model to 18 different markets. Also in Africa and across Russia and Kazakhstan. So that's really exciting to see also that the model is scalable to other countries and other markets that are vastly different. And to date, we've supported over 1,000 social entrepreneurs, and they have themselves benefited and supported over 4 million children and youth.
Wow, what a tremendous effort. Thank you so much, Sophia. Over to you, Patrick. You kind of have a quite good overview of social entrepreneurship and the social economy in the EU. How would you describe the last, let's say, 10 years of development? What have you seen? What has changed?
Well, it's true that if we look back, I think we did, a lot of things, especially, at the EU at member states level. 10 years ago, Michel Barnier, who was a commissioner, for internal market, decided to launch the social business initiative in Europe. And we have worked in many, many areas, to promote the development of social entrepreneurship and social enterprise. Maybe I would take, three main topics. The first one is access to finances. And as Sophia said, it's true that we need to support social entrepreneur and social enterprise to scale up and to grow. For this reason, we have developed a lot of programs for them, especially with the European Investment Bank, the European Investment Fund, to work in close cooperation with financial institutions, for example, to guarantee, for example, their portfolio of loans that they wanted to give, to social entrepreneurs. So this is something that was important. So working with financial instrument, working, of course, with grant, with all the instruments that we have, the European Social Fund, European Regional Fund as well. This is something for us that is key. So really on the supply side and on the demand side, where we try to push, for more investment readiness program, for social entrepreneur, at the local and regional level. Finance was key. But as you mentioned as well, Sophia, we were working hard, for public procurement, access to market. Access to market is another tool that is important. We set up some dedicated schemes and regulation, especially the public procurement regulation that is dated in 2014. This is where we try to push public purchaser to be aware that they can buy for social enterprise. And what we have done, a lot of awareness raising campaign, in Europe. We have developed, a guide. I will try to put, the web link where you will be able to download, the guide with all the best practices that we have. It's really about communication. It's possible to buy, from from social entrepreneur for some social enterprise. So let's do it. When we know that nearly 15%, of public procurement, let's say in Europe it's been developed. So this is something that for us is key. And maybe the last thing that I wanted to say that if we are pushing for public procurement, if we are pushing for finance, we have to work really in close relation with member states to develop framework condition for them. So this is where we set up some dedicated scheme to with member states to act. We have developed, for example, with the OECD, the Better Entrepreneurship tool, which really is an instrument that is designed for policymakers, at local and regional level, just to see, okay, what is the situation, of my ecosystem, in my city, in my region? How can I upgrade it? So this is really key. This diagnostic, instrument is key, for public policy makers. We decided as well to map in the different member states the situation of member states and to help them, to find solution, for better policy making. And something that we always hear, from stakeholders, this is a question of statistics. If you cannot, have good statistics, you cannot create good public policy. So again, we are working a lot with National Statistics Office in member states to develop satellite account for the social economy. This is really in a nutshell, what we have done. And of course, next step is preparing, our action plan for the social economy. This is, some new action, new programs that will be released for social economy stakeholders, and this will be released end of the year. And we are currently working a lot in the European Commission and with stakeholders to develop now the new programs, the new projects for the years ahead.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And as far as I know, the May European Social Economy Summit will be one of the main events where you unveil your strategy. Is that right?
Yeah, indeed. We have been working with the city of Mannheim since September last year, for what we call the roadmap to Mannheim. These are monthly events where we discuss social economy topics. For example, the role of social economy in tackling, the COVID crisis, question about health, unemployment. Indeed, how can the social economy, how can social entrepreneur tackle social challenges? And we had our last roadmap event several weeks ago, and now we are preparing, let's say, for the big event that will take place on the 26th and 27th of May, where we will have more than 80 workshops, high-level panelists, different commissioners at commission level, to discuss with you, with stakeholders, the future of the social economy.
Thank you so much, Patrick. I think there's a lot in there that we will touch later on as well, public social procurement in particular. But going over to you, Verle, who is filling in for Nevin, who can't make it. Probably you can explain what Nevin is doing right now, but also one question for you. The Euclid network, you have a very good overview also what is happening, but more from, also from a policy perspective, but also on what is going on the ground with your members. Could you share some insight on what is happening?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for having me here this afternoon. It is a true pleasure to close the week amongst friends and colleagues in the social entrepreneurship sector. And hello to everyone listening in from Switzerland. Yeah, so maybe good talking about trends in the past 10 years. Good to highlight that Euclid Network actually started out as a network focusing on civil society. And as civil society had to transform to take on more entrepreneurial activities and trading activities, because one of the reasons was a lack of financial resources because of the financial crisis and following government retrenchments. We as a network also shifted our focus more towards social entrepreneurship. And while social enterprise is not a new concept, I want to reiterate what Sophia was saying, that definitely we've seen, a rise of public awareness around the topic of social enterprise. I mean, also thanks to the initiatives of the European Commission, of course, the SBI has been instrumental in also raising the visibility among governments about the importance of social enterprise. We see a growing number of social entrepreneurs, and as Sophia said, we also see a growing number of intermediaries, business support organizations, structures, and a growing number of national alliances. Where 10 years ago, maybe only the Netherlands and the UK and had a national alliance representing social enterprise. We now have Switzerland, Germany, Austria, Hungary has just started its first coalition. So that demonstrates, that shows us, that the sector is developing, it's maturing, and social enterprises have the time to actually engage in networks and have the time to engage in advocacy efforts. So what's quite remarkable is that we've seen a 25% membership increase over the past year. It was a COVID year, and whilst national borders literally closed down, we, as social enterprise intermediaries, through the internet, found each other, and international collaboration and engagement has been, stronger than before. And then, I mean, a last point I want to make is indeed echoing also what Sophia said, that it's good times for social enterprise, because I am here because actually our president of the board, Neven Marinovic, is at the EU Council presidency meeting at the moment. It is, Patrick just confirmed, it's probably the very first time that social economy actors have been invited to such a high-level conference, where Neven now has the opportunities to speak directly to prime ministers and presidents from the EU member states, as well as the commissioner Ursula Ursula von der Leyen, and that is demonstrates that we are at an incredible moment in time.
Yes, absolutely, and I think this is some of the push that we're seeing, some of the waves that we're seeing all over Europe, also here in Germany. I was watching the panel discussion before, and there was one very interesting point that was raised, and that is that the actors of the social economy have to work together with governments, or rather the other way around, governments need to work together with those that are working on the ground. And this bottom-up approach that Samuel Brudisauer took up. Sophia, you are working with different countries. Yeah. How do you see that? How important is it that we actually, as organizations on the ground, work together with the government?
Yeah. Well, I think if we take a step back and say that, I mean, the governments are the final owners of a lot of the problems that we have in the social sector right now, right? They are the end, organization or kind of, large structure that's responsible, for keeping people and planet and all of these things, and also supporting us in making this sustainable transition, which we really need to make now. We had less than 10 years to reach the Sustainable Development Goals, and COVID has not made things easier. So I think that the important thing that local social enterprise can bring into this transformation is really critical, because it's something that the governments cannot bring. Firstly, what we see is our entrepreneurs are really working very, very closely with the beneficiary groups. So they know the problems, and they know, they know themselves the best solutions, and we just need to empower them. And I think what happens is that the solutions become much more effective, much more sustainable, because there's local ownership, and because they're also designed with the end user in mind. They're not inefficient, and they're definitely, user friendly. And I think that's a mindset that we need to bring into our kind of transformational journey that we need now, if we're going to find, more green and more equitable kind of solutions. So that's super, super important. But then comes this mismatch, because what we need then is more investment into this sector. And I think it's really interesting, Patrick, you were bringing up the idea of procurement. And I think, as an example, I've read statistics that over 99% of public procurement contracts go to, male-led enterprises and organizations. And that's just an example of how we, are excluding people in the population who really have important contributions to make. And I think that that's also another aspect why it's so important to kind of match the social enterprise and what the social enterprise sector can contribute to governments and large institutions that cannot move so flexibly and easily, and maybe don't have the full data and full kind of user-centric mindset.
So governments play a very important role. Verle, if you look at what an ecosystem makes good for social entrepreneurs, what kind of positions would you take?
Well, you can read our manifesto, and it has 20 pages of things that that we need. But I mean, for the sake of time, and because everyone wants to have a beer later, I'll keep it short. I think that a few things that, I mean, of course, echoing what Sophia said, I think local support for starting social entrepreneurs is crucial. That means, having local innovation hubs in every region. It also means having, financial providers that can invest tailor-made, can do tailor-made investments in social enterprises. So it's business support, it's finance. It's also regulatory environment. I think that COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of legal recognition of social enterprises. At the height of the crisis, where governments were designing support packages for businesses, they couldn't tailor them to social enterprises, because, I mean, what is a social enterprise? Is it a for-profit business? Is it a charity? Is it an association? So regulatory environment, and then what has been mentioned by Patrick also is statistics, is data. I mean, what does the social enterprise sector actually look like? And to that extent, together with Michael, we are working on this amazing project. It's called the European Social Enterprise Monitor, where we actually try to gather this bottom-up data about social entrepreneurs in the sector. Because if we want to have evidence-based policy making, we need to know what's actually happening in the sector. So more of that is needed.
And also the European Social Enterprise Monitor will be presented at the Social Economy Summit in Mannheim in May. And also there is the new Social Enterprise Monitor for Switzerland also, so you can take a look there for the Swiss social economy. We have heard now the term social procurement, public social procurement, several times. You also talked about it, Patrick. And I'm taking once again up something that was said in the panel before our panel, and that was Melanie Mettler coined the term, there's a resistance towards transformation, especially in governments. And what I'm interested in, Patrick, is the reception of what you've been done concerning public social procurement in the different countries in Europe and in the EU. Do they take this up? Is it interesting for them? Do they actually take part in it, or is there much more work needed?
I would say both of them. Because first of all, we have seen indeed that if you read, the EU regulation, there is a possibility, that public policymakers can use, the social public procurement, for their procurement. The question is, are they aware of it? Because if you are not aware, then it's not possible to do anything. So this is the reason why we have decided, to go into in different member states and to do some awareness raising. So we invited in more than 15 member states, especially those who were a bit, let's say, lagging behind. We decided to invite, public policy officer, purchasing officers, social entrepreneur, association of social entrepreneurs, just to meet, to discuss, and to see, well, look, this is what is possible, and to invite, those who had, let's say, some success story, in other member states. And this is, what I have sent you, in the chat. You have seen, some best practices that have been, gathered, throughout Europe. So first of all, it's really, to increase the degree of visibility. I mean, the success story. Of course, it's not an obligation. It's just, a possibility, an opportunity that is given, to public purchasers to act. I would say that for the moment, what we have seen is that, it's still a learning process, because people sometimes do not know how to do it. They don't want to be wrong, to make any mistakes, legal mistakes. So it's really, this learning process, that unfortunately, takes time. What we have decided to do, we want to continue to do this awareness raising. We want to continue to go to member states, to invite, to discuss, to show, best practices, in order, this socially public procurement, to increase, in the EU. So, in few words, we really say to public purchasers, please do the utmost of the possibilities that are offered to you. Look, it can work. So why couldn't it work, in your own country, in your own municipality?
And maybe that's a good reason to strengthen also EU regulations around the topic of public social procurement. And that's probably one of the things that Euclid Network will take up in their lobbying efforts. Because I think that of course, it's important to have this kind of non-obligatory approach, but also, I guess, we can make more policy around that topic. We are slowly drawing to an end, but before we leave you, I want to ask the whole panel the question. So what does this all that we're talking about right now mean for the Swiss social economy? What would you give as recommendations? What should they look at concerning the ecosystem for social economy? Verli, would you like to start?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. I want to start by quoting a real thought leader in the sector, which is Daniela Thornton Papi, who says, as social entrepreneurs, we need to marry our problem, not our business. And I think that social entrepreneurs, have this incredible mission to solve a societal problem whilst also running a business. And why am I saying this? Because I mean, as social entrepreneurs, you are not just running a business, but you're an advocate or an ambassador to the problem that you're trying to solve. So my advice would be your voice it should be heard by local governments and national governments, and actually the EU too. So a practical way of making your voice heard is to join local networks, national networks, and then through those networks, we can collectively raise your voices, and we can all be ambassadors of your problems, and bringing you a step closer to that just and green economy that we're all working towards.
So that's a very strong recommendation to also join the Sense network, and also join, of course, Euclid network, or whichever network you have in your regional area. Sophia, what is your recommendations?
Yeah, well, I think we've heard some great kind of macro conversations here on you know, procurement and policy and these kinds of things, but I would love to give some recommendations just to the budding social entrepreneurs out there, or to the people maybe who have been working for some time. So I mean, the number one thing I think is you know your expertise and recognize your own expertise. You know, you're struggling with this social problem, you probably have you know, insights into that beneficiary group, whether it's, you know, an autistic child, or whether it's, you know, somebody in the old age sector. You know, you are you know them, you know, as Verle said, you're the ambassador. So, you know, really work on that knowledge. I would say to focus on the product market fit. I mean, that's really very, very like a key tactical thing to get right in the beginning. Third, like as Verle was saying, build your alliances. I think a social entrepreneur, it can be a very lonely journey. You need support, you need other ambassadors, you need your network of peers, and your network of investors, and your network of intermediaries. And finally, I would just like to say, think big. You know, and be visionary, have a big, audacious, hairy impact goal that you're working to, because that's going to get you out of bed in the morning. And very, very final piece of advice, that get ready for a tough journey as well. You know, it takes a lot of persistence and a lot of grit, but the end result is really rewarding. So I look forward to see what comes out of Switzerland also, and from this network, and to hear your success stories.
Thank you, Sophia. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you. I will not repeat what Sophia and Verle said. I think these are excellent recommendations. Maybe I would just add, you know, from a policy point of view, really create partnerships, cross-border partnerships. This is important. In Europe, in the European Union, at the Commission level, what we have decided to do is to set up a scheme, what we call the European Social Economy Region, is just to invite different stakeholders in different countries, you know, to join forces, you know, to reflect on social challenges. And again, maybe for me, this is key, you know, to make you, you know, visible, so that, you know, you can have an impact. And to have an impact, you cannot have an impact alone. It's really about partnerships. Create your partnerships, you know, to have, you know, impact, you know, to solve the social challenges that are really in front of us. So really, it's an invitation for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Yes, and I would absolutely add to this list, be persistent when you talk to your politicians, because sometimes they need a bit of longer time to understand social entrepreneurship, and be a pain in the ass sometimes. I think that's very important. Nobody wants that, but they need it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the panel. Thank you so much for listening, all in the audience. And with that, I give over to headquarters in Basel. Thank you.